Taeho grabbed a fallen soldier's rifle and fired into the group, forcing them back again. But they kept coming. Always more of them, and the darkness lasted 3 seconds. Long enough for Taeho to grab Jinwoo and pull him through a side maintenance hatch. Long enough to disappear before the emergency lights flickered on. The Vrelnathi soldiers rushed into the communication chamber, weapons ready, but found only empty space and cooling equipment. One of them hissed in frustration and spoke into his communicator. Target escaped. Continuing search. In the maintenance shaft above them, Taeho held perfectly still. Jinwoo was breathing too loud, panicked. Taeho put a hand over the engineer's mouth and shook his head slowly. Not yet, wait. The soldiers searched for 5 minutes before moving on. Only then did Taeho release Jinwoo and gesture for him to follow. They crawled deeper into the station's infrastructure, putting distance between themselves and the hunters. When they finally stopped in a small equipment room, Jinwoo gasped for air. What happened? Why did the lights go out? I don't know. Lucky timing or someone's helping us. Taeho checked his stolen datapad, scrolling through the station's status reports. The message got through. That's what matters. Now we need to survive long enough for Earth to respond. How long will that take? Best case? Earth receives the transmission in 2 hours. They mobilize their nearest fleet and jump to hyperspace immediately. Travel time to Sanctum Prime is 4 days. Jinwoo's face fell. 4 days? We have to hide from 1,000 soldiers for 4 days? Yes. That's impossible. Taeho looked at him with those cold, calm eyes. I've done harder things, but I need you to trust me and follow my instructions exactly. Can you do that? Jinwoo nodded slowly. Who are you, really? You're not just a diplomat. I used to be someone else, someone who fought in places where being caught meant worse than death. I left that life behind, but it seems that life isn't done with me yet. What do we do first? Taeho pulled up a map of the station on the datapad. The human delegation. Mirai and the others from the Grand Chamber. If they're alive, they'll be held in the diplomatic wing. The Vrelnathi need them for their story. Human terrorists killed in a firefight looks better than humans executed while helpless. You want to rescue them from the middle of a Vrelnathi stronghold? I want to try. Taeho studied the map, his mind working through angles and possibilities. But first we need to even the odds. The Vrelnathi control the station's communication and security systems. We need to take that control away. How? You're an engineer. Can you access the station's AI core? Jinwoo thought about it. Maybe. The AI is distributed across multiple nodes, but the primary control center is in the central hub. That's even more heavily guarded than the diplomatic wing. What about the auxiliary nodes? The backup systems? There are 6 auxiliary nodes throughout the station. Each one has partial control over different systems. If we could access one, we might be able to disrupt Vrelnathi operations. Show me the nearest one. They moved through the station like ghosts over the next hour. Taeho had spent years learning how to be invisible, how to move through enemy territory without being seen. He taught Jinwoo the basics. Stay low, move slow, use cameras' blind spots, listen for patrols before you enter corridors. The auxiliary AI node was in a storage section near the station's agricultural domes. 2 guards stood outside the access door. They looked bored, not expecting trouble this far from the main action. Taeho studied them from around a corner. Can you hack the door controls from here? Jinwoo pulled out a small toolkit. Give me 30 seconds. 28 seconds later, the door's lock light turned green. The guards noticed immediately and moved to investigate. Taeho was waiting. He dropped the first guard with a strike to the neck, caught him before he fell, and lowered him silently. The second guard turned, mouth opening to shout. Taeho's knife found his throat first. I'm sorry, Jinwoo whispered, staring at the bodies. Don't be sorry. Be useful. Get inside and access that node. The auxiliary AI node was a small room filled with computer banks and cooling units. Jinwoo sat at the main terminal and began typing rapidly. The AI is compartmentalized. The Vrelnathi have locked me out of most functions, but I can access some secondary systems. Environmental controls, power distribution, internal sensors. Can you see where the humans are being held? Jinwoo pulled up a security feed. The screen showed a large room in the diplomatic wing. 7 humans sat against a wall, their hands bound. Mirai was among them, her face bruised but alert. 4 Vrelnathi guards watched them, weapons ready. There, Taeho said quietly. Can you show me the route to that location? I can do better than that. Jinwoo's fingers flew across the keyboard. I can cause distractions. Power outages, false alerts, anything to pull guards away from their posts. Good, but not yet. First, I need you to send a message through the station's PA system. Can you do that without the Vrelnathi tracing it? If I route it through multiple nodes, maybe. What message? Taiho pulled out the data chip. Broadcast the evidence, everything. Let every species on this station know the truth about what the Vrelnathi did. They'll come for us the moment the broadcast starts. I know, but we're not staying here. We're going to the diplomatic wing while they're confused and angry. Get ready to run. Jinwoo hesitated, then nodded. He inserted the data chip and began uploading its contents to the station's broadcast system. This is crazy. You know that, right? Yes, the broadcast began. Every speaker in Sanctum Prime suddenly came alive with Taiho's voice, calm and clear. Citizens of the Galactic Council, my name is Quan Taiho. I am a human diplomat, and I am not a terrorist. What you are about to see is evidence of the Vrelnathi Consortium's conspiracy against humanity, and the Council itself. The evidence played across every screen, every data pad, every display in the station. Communications between Vrelnathi commanders planning the attack, video of them planting explosives, financial records showing bribes to corrupt officials, the complete, undeniable truth. Chaos erupted throughout Sanctum Prime. Taiho and Jinwoo ran. Behind them they could hear shouts and the sound of weapons fire. Not directed at them, but at Vrelnathi positions. Some species believed the evidence, some didn't. But all of them were angry and confused, and that was enough. They reached the diplomatic wing during the worst of it. The station was tearing itself apart, faction against faction. Korthan warriors had engaged Vrelnathi soldiers in the main corridors. Methrin traders were barricading themselves in their quarters. Station security forces, those who weren't compromised, were trying to restore order and failing. The room where the humans were held was less guarded now. Only 2 soldiers remained. The others had been pulled away to deal with the growing riots. Taiho took them down quickly. 1 shot each, precise and clean. He kicked open the door to find Mirai and the others staring at him in shock. Liaison officer, Mirai said. You're alive? For now, come on. We're leaving. He cut their bonds with his knife. They stood on shaky legs, 7 humans who'd been certain they were about to die. One of the trade specialists, a man named Kim Daeho, grabbed Taiho's arm. What's happening out there? We heard explosions. The station knows the truth now. The Vrelnathi's plan is falling apart. But we're not safe yet. Stay close to me and do exactly what I say. They moved as a group through corridors filled with smoke and confusion. Twice they encountered Vrelnathi soldiers. Twice Taiho dropped them before they could raise an alarm. The rescued humans watched with growing understanding. Their quiet liaison officer was something else entirely. Jinwoo led them to a maintenance bay in the lower levels. It was defensible, with only 1 entrance and thick walls. We can hold here, he said. Wait for Earth's fleet. But Taiho was studying his datapad, and what he saw made his blood run cold. We don't have 4 days anymore. What do you mean? The Vrelnathi fleet. They were supposed to arrive in 3 days to clean up the situation. But Commander Velrith just sent an emergency signal. They're jumping early. They'll be here in 6 hours. Mirai stared at him. What happens when they arrive? They destroy the station and everyone on it. Blame it on human terrorists. No witnesses, no evidence. Can't the station defend itself? Against a battle fleet? No. Sanctum Prime has defensive weapons, but they're designed to stop pirates, not military warships. Silence fell over the group. They'd survived this long only to face annihilation from orbit. Then Jinwoo spoke up. There is something. A prototype weapon system. The station was supposed to test it for asteroid mining, but the Council never approved it for use. A mass driver. It can fire projectiles at a significant percentage of light speed. Taiho looked at him. Can it damage a warship? If it hits, it would go through a ship like paper. But it's never been fired. The targeting system is untested, and someone would have to manually operate it from the weapons control room. Where is that room? In the station's core, the section that lost atmosphere during the attack. It's exposed to vacuum. You'd need an EVA suit and about 20 minutes to get there. And the route? Through areas where Vrelnathi soldiers are still fighting. They control most of the approaches to the core. Taiho stood, checking his weapons. Then I'll go through them. Mirai grabbed his arm. You can't, it's suicide. Even if you make it to the core, even if you fire the weapon. The foam and mist gave Taiho 3 seconds of cover. He used them well. A Vrelnathi soldier emerged from the white cloud. plasma rifle raised. He was looking for targets in the panicking crowd. He didn't expect the human diplomat to be right beside him, moving like a ghost. Taeho's hand struck the soldier's throat in a precise blow that crushed his windpipe. The rifle was in Taeho's hands before the body hit the floor. No time to think. Only act. The weapon was unfamiliar, but all guns had the same basic logic. Taeho found the trigger, flicked off the safety, and fired 3 bolts into the ceiling. The artificial gravity generator exploded in a shower of sparks. Suddenly, everyone in a 10-meter radius was floating, weightless. Chaos became absolute chaos. Delegates tumbled through the air, screaming. Vrelnathi soldiers struggled to aim in zero gravity. Taeho used the confusion to push off the floor, sailing toward the upper levels where the maintenance hatches were located. He twisted in midair, fired twice more to change his trajectory, and crashed shoulder first through a ventilation grate. Behind him, Commander Velrith's voice boomed through the chamber speakers. "The human has attacked us. Seal all exits. Find him!" Taeho crawled through the narrow ventilation shaft, moving fast. His dress robes caught on metal edges, so he tore them off, leaving him in the simple black undersuit. Better, more mobile. The shaft branched in 3 directions. He chose the one that led deeper into the station's infrastructure, away from the main corridors. His mind was calm despite everything. This was familiar territory. Not the location, but the situation. Trapped behind enemy lines, outnumbered. Everyone thinking you're dead or soon will be. He'd been here before, many times. The ventilation shaft opened into a recycling processing room. Taeho dropped down quietly, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. The room was empty except for machines that hummed and churned, breaking down waste material. He checked the stolen rifle. Half charge remaining, maybe 20 shots, not enough for 1,000 enemies, but enough to start. Taeho moved to a computer terminal on the wall. It was locked, but he'd spent years learning alien systems. His fingers danced across the interface, bypassing security protocols that were designed to keep out amateurs. He accessed the station's communication logs looking for anything useful. What he found made his blood run cold. The attack had been planned for weeks. The Vrelnathi had planted evidence throughout the station's systems, building a false narrative of human aggression. They'd bribed officials, compromised security, and prepared for this moment with meticulous care. The goal was clear: kill every human on Sanctum Prime, blame Earth for the attack, and use the incident to justify seizing human colonies. There were 83 humans on the station. According to the communications, only 8 were in the Grand Chamber. The rest were scattered throughout the diplomatic wing and engineering sections. The Vrelnathi had teams moving to each location right now. Executions, disguised as combat responses. Taeho downloaded everything he could onto a small data chip. Evidence. Proof. It wouldn't matter if he was dead, but if he could somehow get this information out, humanity might have a chance to defend itself. The door to the recycling room burst open. 3 Vrelnathi soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. Taeho had already moved. He was behind them before they realized, using the machinery as cover. The first soldier went down with a plasma bolt through the back of his helmet. The second turned, but Taeho was faster, closing the distance and driving his knee into the alien's midsection. The armor cracked. Taeho grabbed the soldier's head and slammed it into a recycling unit's metal edge. Once. Twice. The third soldier fired wildly, missing. Taeho rolled, came up in a crouch, and put 2 bolts center mass. The soldier's armor held for a second, then failed. He dropped. Taeho breathed hard. 3 down. 997 to go. He took weapons and equipment from the bodies. Extra energy cells for the rifle. A communicator. A tactical knife. One soldier had been carrying a datapad. Taeho pocketed it and ran. The station's corridors were a maze, but Taeho had studied the layout during his approach. He knew where the human quarters were, where the engineering sections connected to the main hab ring, where the emergency systems could be accessed. He moved through maintenance passages, avoiding main corridors where soldiers were conducting their sweep. Twice he had to hide, pressing himself into shadows while Vrelnathi patrols passed within meters. Once he had to fight, taking down 2 soldiers who'd stopped for a break. Quick, quiet, efficient. He was halfway to the engineering section when he heard it. A broadcast on every speaker in the station, Commander Velrith's voice smooth and certain. Citizens of Sanctum Prime, I regret to inform you that humanity has launched a terrorist attack against the Galactic Council. The human delegation planted explosives throughout the Grand Chamber and opened fire on peaceful representatives. We have neutralized most of the attackers, but one remains at large. The human known as Quan Taiho is armed and extremely dangerous. If you see him, do not approach. Alert security immediately. Taiho kept moving. Words were just another weapon, and Velrith was using them well. By the time anyone checked the facts, the Vrel Nathi would have cleaned up all evidence and rewritten history, unless Taiho stopped them. The engineering section was less crowded. Most of the staff had been evacuated to safe zones when the lockdown began. Taiho found what he was looking for in a sub-level maintenance bay. A man in an engineer's uniform was hiding behind a power conduit, his face pale with fear. Taiho approached slowly, hands visible, rifle pointed at the floor. "I'm human," he said quietly. "Not your enemy." The engineer stared at him. "You're him. The terrorist. The one they're looking for. I'm the one they're framing. What's your name?" The engineer swallowed hard. "Cha Jinwoo. I work in environmental systems. I've been hiding since the attack started." "Smart. How well do you know this station's systems?" "Better than anyone. I've been here 5 years. But why would I help you? They said you killed people." Taiho pulled out the data chip and tossed it to Jinwoo. "Look at that. It's from the Vrel Nathi communication network. The real story." Jinwoo's hands shook as he inserted the chip into a portable reader. His eyes widened as he scrolled through the files. They planned this. All of it. Yes, and they're killing every human on the station right now to cover their tracks, including the rest of our delegation. Including you, eventually. Jinwoo looked up, his fear replaced by anger. "What do we do?" "We survive. We expose this. We get a message to Earth before the Vrel Nathi can spin their story." Taiho knelt beside the engineer. "Can you access the station's long-range communications from here?" "No. The main array is controlled from the command center and that's locked down tight, but..." Jinwoo thought for a moment. "There's a secondary array. Emergency backup system. It's in the lower engineering deck near the fusion reactors. Not as powerful, but it could send a signal. Can you operate it?" "If we can get there alive." Taiho checked his rifle charge. 15 shots left. "What's the fastest route?" Jinwoo pulled up a schematic on his datapad. "Through the coolant processing tunnels. They're tight, uncomfortable, and most species won't fit through them. But we can. Show me." They moved together through the station's guts. Jinwoo led, navigating the narrow passages with practiced ease. Taiho followed, his rifle ready, listening for any sounds of pursuit. The tunnels were cold and damp, filled with the hum of machinery and the rush of coolant through pipes. After 20 minutes of crawling, they emerged into a small chamber filled with communication equipment. The secondary array's controls were old but functional. Jinwoo immediately got to work, his fingers flying over the interface. "I can boost the signal," he muttered, "but it'll take 5 minutes to align the array with Earth's sector, and once we start broadcasting, the Vrel Nathi will know where we are. They'll come fast. Then we have 5 minutes to hold them off." Taiho positioned himself at the door, checking his weapon. "Send everything. The data chip, our testimony, everything. What if Earth doesn't believe it? What if they think the Vrel Nathi are telling the truth?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. "Then we die here. But at least we die trying." Jinwoo began the transmission sequence. The array hummed to life, its signal reaching out across the void toward Earth. Taiho watched the corridor outside, his body tense. They had 4 minutes left when the first soldiers appeared. Taiho fired, driving them back. The plasma bolts lit up the narrow corridor, scorching metal walls. The soldiers returned fire, their shots forcing Taiho to take cover behind a support pillar. 3 minutes, Jinwoo called out. More soldiers arrived. Taiho counted 8, then 12, then lost count. They were coordinating now, using proper tactics instead of rushing in blindly. Professional soldiers, not security guards. Taiho's rifle clicked empty. He dropped it and drew the tactical knife. Not ideal, but he'd worked with worse. The soldiers advanced. Taiho let them come close, then struck. The knife found gaps in armor, weak points in shields. He moved like water, never where the enemy expected. One soldier went down, then another. But there were too many. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder, burning through skin. Taiho ignored the pain and kept fighting. 2 minutes, Jinwoo said, his voice tight with fear. The shuttle docked with Sanctum Prime at exactly 0900 hours. Quan Taiho stood at the viewing port, watching the massive space station grow larger as they approached. It was beautiful in its way, a ring of metal and light spinning slowly against the backdrop of stars. 247 different species called this place neutral ground. For the past 15 years, humanity had been trying to earn its place among them. Tejo adjusted his gray diplomatic robes and picked up his single small case. He traveled light, always had. Ambassador, we're cleared for docking, the pilot announced over the intercom. I'm not an ambassador, Tejo replied quietly, just a liaison officer. The distinction mattered to him, though he knew most people didn't care about titles. Ambassadors made grand speeches and negotiated treaties. Liaison officers handled the small details, the cultural misunderstandings, the quiet work that kept civilizations from accidentally offending each other. Tejo preferred it that way. He'd had enough of the spotlight in his previous life. The airlock cycled open with a hiss. Waiting on the other side was Han Mirai, his assistant for this mission. She was young, maybe 28, with sharp eyes and an eager smile. This was her first major assignment off Earth. Liaison Officer Quan, she said, bowing slightly. Welcome to Sanctum Prime. I've prepared the briefing materials for today's opening ceremony. Thank you, Mirai. How are the accommodations? Adequate. The Vrelnathi Consortium insisted on handling security arrangements for the human delegation. I found it odd, but Protocol Officer Yoon approved it. Tejo's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered behind his eyes. The Vrelnathi are handling our security? Yes, sir. They said it was a gesture of goodwill given the trade negotiations. I see. Tejo started walking down the corridor, his eyes cataloging everything. Security cameras at intervals of 15 meters. Environmental controls accessible through wall panels. 3 emergency airlocks visible from this position alone. Show me our quarters. The human delegation quarters were in the diplomatic wing, section 7. Tejo counted 47 steps from the nearest elevator. The doors were standard magnetic locks, easy to override with the right tools. Inside, the rooms were comfortable but generic, designed to accommodate multiple species' needs. Mirai handed him a datapad. The opening ceremony begins in 3 hours. The Vrelnathi Consortium will present first, then us, then the Methrin Collective. Trade route proposals, tariff agreements, the usual. Tejo scrolled through the documents, but his mind was elsewhere. Why would the Vrelnathi offer to handle human security? The reptilian species was known for aggressive business practices and territorial disputes. They'd opposed Earth's Council membership from the beginning. Goodwill wasn't their style. Mirai, who else is in our delegation? 7 others. 2 trade specialists, 3 cultural advisors, 1 security officer, and myself. Officer Byun is our security lead, but he reported that his equipment request was denied by station authorities. Something about prohibited weapons classifications. Where is Officer Byun now? He was called to a security briefing an hour ago. He hasn't returned yet. The cold feeling in Tejo's gut grew stronger. He set down the datapad and walked to the window. From here, he could see part of the station's central hub, where the Grand Chamber sat like a jewel in the middle of Sanctum Prime. Thousands of delegates would gather there today. Mirai, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to do it quietly. She straightened. Of course. Map every emergency exit from the Grand Chamber. Note which ones are marked as maintenance only. Find out which species have security personnel stationed near those exits. Don't ask anyone directly. Use the public access terminals and station directories. Mirai hesitated. Sir, is something wrong? Tejo turned to face her. For a moment, she saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. It wasn't fear or anger. It was a cold, calculating awareness that seemed completely at odds with the gentle diplomat she'd been working with for 6 months. I hope not, he said softly. But hope isn't a strategy. Can you do this? Yes, sir. Good. And Mirai, if anything unusual happens today, anything at all, I want you to get to emergency airlock J7. It's in the lower engineering section. Can you remember that? J7, lower engineering. But why would... Just remember it. The next 3 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Tejo attended the mandatory diplomatic briefing, where a Silene protocol officer explained the ceremony procedures in excruciating detail. He smiled politely and took notes. He shook hands or tentacles or whatever appendage was offered. He made small talk about Earth's weather and humanity's newest starship designs. All the while, he watched. The Vrelnathi security personnel were everywhere, their scaled faces impassive behind blast shields. They carried plasma rifles, military grade, far more firepower than necessary for a diplomatic function. They'd positioned themselves at every major intersection, every elevator bank, every shuttle bay. Taiho noticed that human security personnel had been quietly reassigned to the outer rings of the station. Officer Bune still hadn't returned. When Taiho casually inquired about him, he was told the officer was still in briefing for 3 hours. Right. Mireille found him 20 minutes before the ceremony. She handed him a small data chip. The exit map you requested. There are 12 exits from the Grand Chamber. 8 are public, 4 are maintenance. All 4 maintenance exits have Relnathi guards. So do 6 of the public ones. And the other 2 public exits? Korthan warriors. They're neutral, not part of any trade faction. Taiho nodded slowly. The Korthans were honorable, at least by reputation. If something happened, they might not be compromised. You did good work, Mireille. Keep that data chip with you, and remember what I said about airlock J7. The Grand Chamber was magnificent. The ceiling rose 50 meters above the floor, covered in a projection of real-time star maps. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in curved rows, their seats arranged in a vast amphitheater. The air smelled of 1,000 different atmospheres, filtered and mixed by environmental systems working overtime. Taiho took his assigned seat in the human section. Their delegation of 8 looked tiny compared to some of the other groups. The Vrelnathi had brought 50 representatives, all dressed in ceremonial armor that gleamed under the lights. The ceremony began with traditional greetings. Each species representative stood and spoke briefly. Taiho listened with half his attention. The other half was counting guards, measuring distances, noting the positions of the artificial gravity generators overhead. Old habits. They'd kept him alive through 3 wars and a dozen black operations. He'd tried to leave that life behind, tried to become a man of peace instead of a weapon in a suit. But now those instincts were screaming at him that something was very wrong. The Vrelnathi spokesman, Commander Velrith, gave a long speech about interspecies cooperation and the importance of free trade. His words were beautiful. His eyes were cold. Then it was Taiho's turn to speak. He stood, walked to the central platform, and began presenting Earth's proposal for expanded shipping routes through human space. He spoke calmly, clearly, making his points with simple logic and careful data. He was 3 minutes into his presentation when he saw it. A Vrelnathi guard near the east exit tapped his communicator twice. Then another guard did the same. Then another. A signal passed around the room in a matter of seconds. Taiho kept speaking, but his body tensed. His hand moved slightly closer to the edge of the podium, where the emergency controls were located. The lights went out. For 1 second, the Grand Chamber was completely dark. Then the emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red light. And then the screaming started. Explosions ripped through the eastern wall. The blast wave knocked delegates from their seats. Plasma fire lit up the darkness as Vrelnathi soldiers opened fire on the crowd, not wildly, not in panic, with precision, targeting specific seats, specific species, specific individuals. Through the chaos, holographic displays flickered to life, showing surveillance footage. Humans planting bombs, humans with weapons, humans attacking the station, all of it fake, all of it perfectly timed. Taiho understood instantly. This wasn't just an attack. It was a frame job. Humanity was being set up to take the fall for a massacre. He dove behind the podium as plasma bolts scorched the air where he'd been standing. His mind raced through options. Mireille was 20 meters away, frozen in shock. The other humans in his delegation were scattered, vulnerable. Vrelnathi soldiers were moving through the crowd now, executing delegates who might be witnesses. This was an extermination. Taiho's hand found the emergency control panel. He smashed the glass and hit 3 buttons in quick sequence. The fire suppression system activated, filling the chamber with foam and mist. It wouldn't stop the soldiers, but it would give him seconds. Seconds were all he needed. He moved. And that might be enough to buy us time to find a real solution. Around the chamber, 2 ships arrived from Earth 3 days later. They were fast courier vessels, small and efficient, carrying the experts that Taimin had requested. The first person off the ship was a woman named Jisoo. carrying 3 bags of equipment and wearing a smile that suggested she had been waiting her whole life for this moment. "Ambassador," she said, bowing to Daejung. "I brought the cyber warfare team, 15 of Earth's best hackers, all ready to make some aliens very confused." Behind her came Shung, a military commander who moved like a predator and had eyes that never stopped analyzing his surroundings. "We brought a battalion, 200 soldiers, all veterans, all trained in asymmetric warfare. Where do you want us?" Daejung felt relief wash over him. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "Are you kidding?" Jisoo said. "When Earth got your message saying that aliens were under attack and you needed hackers, I think every cyber specialist on the planet volunteered. We had to draw lots to see who got to come." Shung was less enthusiastic. "I read the briefing. The Torvin are using human tactics against the Council. That means they think like us. That makes them dangerous." "Yes," Taemin agreed. "Come. We have much work to do." The first briefing was held in a large conference room that the Council had cleared for human use. Screens showed maps of Council space, marked with Torvin positions and Council defensive lines. Ilthan stood at the front with Taemin, both of them looking grim. "The situation is this," Ilthan began. "The Torvin have taken 7 systems. They are holding position for now, but our intelligence suggests they are preparing for another push. We have 3 weeks at most before they attack again." Seung studied the map. "What are they after? Resources? Territory? We do not know," Ilthan admitted. "They have not communicated their demands. They simply attack." "Then we need to assume they want everything," Shung said. "That is how you fight this kind of enemy. You assume the worst and prepare accordingly." Jisoo had her laptop open and was scrolling through data. "I have been looking at the code they use to hack the Council ships. It is sophisticated. Whoever wrote this understands Council systems very well." "Too well, meaning?" Daejung asked. "Meaning they either studied the Council for a very long time or they had help from someone who knows Council systems intimately." Jisoo looked up. "Have any Council species defected to the Torvin?" The Council members in the room looked at each other uncomfortably. Finally, Cole spoke. "We do not know. We have never had a reason to track individuals who leave Council space. Anyone is free to go wherever they wish." "That needs to change," Jisoo said. "If the Torvin have Council defectors helping them, they have access to all your security protocols, all your tactical data, everything. We need to assume your systems are completely compromised." Hana nodded in agreement. "I have been working with Drokon to install human security measures on critical Council systems, but it is like trying to patch holes in a ship that was never designed to be watertight. The entire Council network was built on trust. Then we build a new network," Jisoo said. "A secure network that only we control. The Council can access it, but they cannot modify it. We create a clean room where the Torvin cannot reach." "How long will that take?" Ilthan asked. "With my team?" 3 days for the basic structure. Another week to secure all critical systems." "We do not have a week," Vextari said from the doorway. The alien had entered quietly, its skin a worried purple. "Our scouts report that the Torvin are moving. They will attack in 5 days," Shung stood up. "Then we work with what we have. Ilthan, I need to see your defense plans, and I need to talk to your fleet commanders." Over the next 3 days, the station became a hive of human activity. Jisoo's team worked around the clock, installing security measures and building isolated networks. They taught Council technicians about firewalls, encryption, and the concept of zero-trust security. The Council technicians were frustrated at first. They were used to systems that just worked, that connected seamlessly, that required no suspicion. "Why do we need 17 passwords?" one technician complained to Hana. "Why can we not just have one central login?" "Because if someone compromises that one login, they have everything," Hana explained patiently. "This way, even if they break one password, they only get a small piece. They cannot move laterally through the system. But it is so inefficient." "Yes, that is the point. Security and efficiency are often opposites. You have to choose which one matters more." Meanwhile, Seung was teaching Council military commanders about asymmetric warfare. He had them in a simulation room, running scenario after scenario. "Stop thinking in formations," he told them for the 10th time. "The Torvin know you will organize. They know you will group your ships into neat tactical units. So do something they do not expect. Scatter. Make them chase you. Force them to split their forces. But if we scatter, we lose our coordination," a Council commander protested. You lose your predictable coordination, Seung corrected. Instead, you use random coordination. Look. He pulled up a simulation. Your ships communicate on open frequencies. The enemy can hear everything you say to each other, so you say nothing. Instead, each ship knows a set of tactics. When the battle starts, each captain decides independently which tactic to use. Sometimes 3 ships will pick the same tactic and accidentally coordinate. Sometimes they will all do something different. The enemy cannot predict it because you do not know what you are going to do until you do it. That sounds like chaos. Exactly. Chaos is a weapon if you know how to use it. Not everyone was happy with the human involvement. Drokon had been working closely with Jisu's team, but other council members expressed concerns. They are taking over our systems, one representative complained at a council meeting. They have access to everything now. How do we know we can trust them? Kira stood to respond. Because they have already proven they can be trusted. They refused to share their dangerous technology with us even when it meant rejection. Now they are helping us survive. They could have left. They could have let us face the Torvin alone. Instead, they are risking their own people to protect us. But they are changing everything, the representative insisted. Our systems, our tactics, our way of thinking. After this is over, we will not be the same council we were before. Good, Cole said firmly. The ancient being's voice carried weight that made everyone listen. The council we were before is what allowed this to happen. We were complacent. We thought the galaxy was safe because we were safe. We thought everyone shared our values because we only talked to people who already shared them. The humans are showing us that we were wrong. It is a painful lesson, but a necessary one. On the 5th day, the Torvin attacked. They came in 3 waves, hitting council defensive positions simultaneously across multiple systems. The first wave hit exactly as predicted, using the same tactics they had used before. But this time, the council was ready. Jisu's security systems blocked the Torvin hacking attempts. The council ship's systems did not turn against them. The Torvin ships seemed confused when their usual advantage did not materialize. The council fleet scattered as Seung had taught them, breaking into small groups that moved independently. The Torvin tried to pursue, but found themselves chasing targets that would not stay still, that would not fight in predictable patterns. Seung had placed human military advisors on several council command ships. They did not take control. They simply whispered suggestions. Ship approaching from your left. Recommend evasive pattern Delta. Enemy concentration detected. Consider moving to Sector 4. Good opportunity for ambush if you angle around that moon. The council commanders were learning. Some learned faster than others. Some made mistakes, but they were adapting. The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, the Torvin had lost half their attacking force. They retreated, pulling back to their original positions. The council had held. In the command center, exhausted council members celebrated. Ilthan approached Taemin with all of its arms extended in what was clearly meant as an embrace. We won, we actually won. You held, Taemin corrected. That is not the same as winning. They will come again, and next time they will adapt to what we did today. But we can adapt too, Ilthan said. You can teach us more. Yes, but there is a problem. Taemin pulled up a display showing battlefield recordings. The Torvin are learning from us. They are studying how we fight. Every battle teaches them more about human tactics. Eventually, they will understand us as well as they understand you. Daejung had been listening. Then we need to find a permanent solution. We cannot fight this war indefinitely. What do you suggest? Vextari asked. Communication, Kira said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. We have never actually talked to the Torvin. We do not know what they want. Maybe there is a way to end this without more fighting. And if there is not? Vextari asked. Then we prepare for a long war, Daejung said. And we do it properly, not by giving the council human weapons, but by helping you develop your own defensive capabilities. We teach you to think like survivors without turning you into warriors. Jisu was at her computer, still monitoring systems. Suddenly she sat up straight. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Hana asked. Remember how I say? Capacitors at 30%, Jinwoo reported. You need full charge for maximum effect. Through Taeho's finger hovered over the firing control. His vision was getting darker around the edges. Blood loss, shock. His body was shutting down, trying to preserve his vital organs. He had minutes left, maybe less. The targeting computer showed him the numbers. The Vrelnathi flagship was 40,000 kilometers away, moving at 0.03% of light speed. The mass driver would fire a tungsten projectile at 12% of light speed. Travel time, 3.7 seconds. 3.7 seconds for a chunk of metal to cross the void. 3.7 seconds to decide the fate of thousands. But the target wasn't staying still. It was moving, rotating, preparing to fire its own weapons. The computer had calculated where it would be when the projectile arrived, but that calculation was based on current velocity and trajectory. If the flagship's captain changed course at the last second, Taiho would miss. "Jinwoo, I need you to listen carefully," Taiho said into his radio. "When I fire this weapon, every sensor in the system is going to light up. The Vrelnathi will know exactly where the shot came from. They'll target this room with everything they have. I understand. Get everyone to the emergency shuttles. If this works, if I take down the flagship, you'll have a window. Maybe 5 minutes before the rest of the fleet reorganizes. Use it, get out. What about you?" "I'll be fine." The lie came easily. "Just get them out." "Taiho." "That's an order, Jinwoo. Move." Taiho closed the radio channel and focused on the targeting display. His hands were shaking now. He pressed them flat against the console, steadying them through sheer will. The flagship's main guns finished charging. Energy readings spiked across Taiho's sensors. They were going to fire any second now. One shot from those weapons and Sanctum Prime would become debris. Taiho initiated the firing sequence. The mass driver activated with a sound like thunder. Even through the vacuum, through the damaged station structure, Taiho felt it. The magnetic rails accelerated the tungsten projectile from 0 to 12% of light speed in less than a second. The power drain was enormous. Every light on the station flickered. Systems crashed. The recoil made the entire central hub shudder. The projectile launched into space, invisible to the naked eye, moving faster than most minds could comprehend. 3.7 seconds. Taiho watched the targeting display, his breath held. The projectile was just a dot on the screen, racing toward its target. The flagship was still there, still charging its weapons, completely unaware of what was coming. 3 seconds. The flagship began to turn. A minor course correction, nothing major, but enough to throw off Taiho's calculations. The projectile was going to miss by a few hundred meters. No, not after everything. Not after everyone who'd died to get him here. Taiho's hands moved across the controls, accessing the mass driver's magnetic guidance system. It wasn't designed for mid-flight corrections. The projectile was supposed to be fire and forget. But there were emergency thrusters on the projectile meant for course adjustment in case of system malfunctions. He activated them. Tiny adjustments, microseconds of thrust. The projectile shifted trajectory. 2 seconds. The flagship's captain must have seen something on his sensors. The massive ship began evasive maneuvers, turning faster. Thruster arrays firing. Too late, far too late. 1 second. The tungsten projectile hit the flagship dead center, right at the main reactor housing. At 12% of light speed, the projectile carried kinetic energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. It punched through the flagship's shields like they didn't exist. Punched through armor plating designed to withstand sustained bombardment. Punched through deck after deck after deck. Through vital systems, through the reactor containment. The flagship didn't explode immediately. For a moment it just seemed to shudder as if surprised. Then the reactor went critical. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but brilliant. A miniature star blooming in the darkness. The flagship tore itself apart from the inside out. Reactor plasma consuming metal and flesh with equal hunger. Secondary explosions rippled through the dying ship as ammunition stores and fuel tanks ignited. In the weapons control room, Taiho watched the display and allowed himself a small smile. "Got you." Then the room exploded. The Vrelnathi fleet had responded instantly. Every remaining ship targeted the station's central hub and fired. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, railguns, everything they had. They were going to make sure whoever had killed their flagship wouldn't survive to see their vengeance fail. The first volley tore through the weakened hull around the weapons control room. Metal shattered. Systems exploded. Taiho was thrown against the wall, his already damaged body taking more punishment than it could handle. The pain was distant now. His nervous system was overloaded, shutting down non-essential sensations. He could feel his heartbeat slowing, blood pooling in his damaged suit, cold creeping in from the edges of his awareness. He tried to reach for his radio to tell Jinwoo that he'd bought them time, but his arms wouldn't respond. His vision narrowed to a tunnel, then to a pinpoint. Through the shattered viewing screen, he could see the stars. Beautiful. Peaceful. A good last sight. The second volley hit. The weapons control room ceased to exist, torn open to space, scattered into debris. In the maintenance bay, Jinwoo watched his displays in horror. No. Taeho, respond. Please respond. Silence on the radio. Mireille grabbed Jinwoo's arm. Is he? The weapons control room is gone. Nothing could survive that. Jinwoo's voice broke. He knew. He knew they'd target him. He stayed there anyway. Then we need to go, Kim Daeho said, his voice urgent. He bought us time. We can't waste it. The group of humans ran through the damaged station toward the emergency shuttle bay. Around them, the station was dying. Atmosphere venting, power failing, structures collapsing. The Vrilnathi fleet was focusing all its fire on the central hub, trying to ensure total destruction of the weapon that had killed their flagship. But they weren't targeting the rest of the station yet. Commander Velrith was dead, vaporized with his ship. The remaining fleet was leaderless, confused, and angry. The emergency shuttle bay was mostly intact. 6 small shuttles sat ready, designed for evacuation scenarios. The humans rushed to the nearest one. Jinwoo activated the launch sequence while the others strapped in. How long until Earth's fleet arrives? Mireille asked. Jinwoo checked the navigation computer. 3 days, maybe less if they push their engines hard after receiving our transmission. And the Vrilnathi fleet? Disorganized. They're arguing over what to do. Some want to destroy the station completely. Others want to capture it and secure evidence. They're not coordinating. The shuttle launched, joining dozens of others fleeing the dying station. Different species all trying to escape. The Vrilnathi fleet let them go. Without leadership, without orders, the individual ship captains defaulted to mercy over cruelty. As they accelerated away from Sanctum Prime, Mireille looked back at the damaged station. The central hub was a ruin, still burning with internal fires. The place where Taeho had made his stand. He saved us all, she said quietly. Not just humans. Everyone on that station. He did more than that, Jinwoo replied. Look at the Vrilnathi fleet. They're withdrawing. They know what happened here will be investigated. The evidence we broadcast, the destruction of their flagship, the witnesses escaping on shuttles. Their conspiracy failed. 3 days later, Earth's emergency fleet arrived at Sanctum Prime. 12 destroyers and a carrier, led by Fleet Admiral Park Sohee. They expected to find a battlefield, possibly a destroyed station. Instead, they found survivors. Hundreds of shuttles clustered together, forming a makeshift convoy. The station itself was damaged but largely intact, already being stabilized by repair crews from the Korthan and Methrin species. The Vrilnathi fleet was gone, retreated to their home space to face political consequences. Admiral Park Sohee stood on the bridge of her flagship, reading the reports. The whole story was there. The conspiracy, the attack, the evidence, and the human liaison officer who'd fought like a demon to save everyone. Find Kwan Taeho, she ordered. I want him on this ship immediately. Ma'am, her communications officer said hesitantly. According to these reports, Liaison Officer Kwan is listed as killed in action. His body was in the weapons control room when it was destroyed. Admiral Park was silent for a long moment. Was it confirmed? Did anyone actually see a body? No, ma'am. The entire section was vaporized. Then he's not dead until I see proof. Admiral Park had known Taeho for 20 years. They'd served together in the Ghost Protocol Division, fought in battles that would never be declassified. She knew what he was capable of. Search every piece of debris, check every survivor. I want him found. The search took 6 hours. They checked the destroyed sections, scanned the debris field, interviewed every survivor. No sign of Taeho, no body, no suit transponder, nothing. Finally, a young ensign reported something odd. Ma'am, one of the escape pods from the station launched 30 seconds before the weapons control room was destroyed. It was damaged, barely functional, and its transponder was offline. We found it drifting in the outer debris field. And there's someone inside, human, unconscious, severe injuries. Medical team says he's barely alive, but he'll make it.